All right, this problem says a function is shown, and then they give us our function. It says f of x equals 2/3 x plus 3. What is the value of f of 12? So remember, f of x, that is our function notation. F of x is the output, and it represents the variable y. So here, when it says what is the value of f of 12, that 12 is our input, or it's our x value. So the problem is telling us we want you to take 12 and put it into your function for x and see what the output is. So that's exactly what we're going to do. 12 is our input, so it's our x value. So everywhere we see an x in this function, we're going to replace it with a 12. Oops, so let me get my mouse here. All right, so we have f of 12. So remember, that's just our function notation. It's saying I'm taking my function f and I'm inputting an x value of 12. When I do that, I get 2/3 times 12 plus 3. Because everywhere we see an x, we're substituting in a 12. Once we get to this step, once we've substituted in our input, you can take the right-hand side of your equation here, and you're just going to type that in Desmos. So you're going to go to Desmos, and you're going to type in 2/3 times 12 plus 3. When you do that, you're going to get 11. So here we're going to use our proper notation. We're going to say f of 12 is equal to 11. So again, in function notation, this is telling us I took my function f. I input a value of 12. When I input 12, 11 is my output. All right, here's another question about evaluating functions. So this says complete the table using the function f of x is equal to 2 times the quantity x plus 2 plus 4x. So in our table here, it looks like we have x, f of x is our two headings for the table. So remember, our x values are our inputs. Our f of x values are our outputs. They're like our y values, but we're using that function notation. So for this table, there's two different types of problems here. If they give us the input, like we do in this first example when they tell us x is 0, we need to substitute that value in for x and solve for the output. So we're going to do this top row of the table together now. So they're telling us that x is equal to 0. We need to find the output. So we're going to take that 0, we're going to plug it into our function, we're going to substitute it in for x. So when we do that, we get that f of 0, or this means I have my function f. I'm inputting a value of 0. That's equal to 2 times the quantity 0 plus 2 plus 4 times 0. Because everywhere we saw an x, we input a 0. Now, just like in the previous problem, once you get to this step, the right-hand side of this equation, you're going to take that and you're going to type it into Desmos. When you do, you get that f of 0 is equal to 4. So that means when I input 0 into my function, my output is 4. So that's the first value for our table right here. All right, now we're going to look at what we do if they give us an output. So we're going to go down here to the bottom row of the table, the very last row here, where we do not know the input, but we know that the output is 94. So when they give us the output, we need to substitute that output in our function for f of x. Because remember, f of x represents the output. So in this case, we're going to take that 94 because that's the output, and we're going to substitute it in for f of x. So we're going to get 94 equals 2 times the quantity x plus 2 plus 4x. So you can see here these two problems are quite different. When they give you the input, you substitute the input in for x, type in Desmos, and you have your answer. When they give you the output, it's a little bit more work. Now we need to use our inverse operations to get x on one side of this equation by itself. So the very first thing we're going to do is the distributive property. Remember, when you have a number outside the parentheses, like we have this 2 here, we need to take it and we need to distribute it or multiply it by both terms inside the parentheses. So when we do that, we get 94 is equal to 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 2 is 4. So 94 is equal to 2x plus 4 plus 4x. Now that we've distributed, we're going to combine like terms. So this 2x and the 4x, we can combine those to get 94 is equal to 6x plus 4. That plus 4 we want to move to the other side of the equation because our goal is to get x by itself. So the inverse of adding 4 is subtracting 4. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides, and when we do that, we get 90 is equal to 6x. Now 6x, remember that is 6 times x, so the inverse of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. We're going to divide both sides by 6, and we get that 15 is equal to x. So when we put that in our table here, it's telling us that when we input 15 into our function, the output we get is 94.